The SQE2 pass rate for resitters has risen sharply in the last two sittings. For details of why we think this might be the case, stay tuned, but only after the jingle.
If you wanna be solicitors, why don't you come and visit us at SQE2?
You may not know this, but the SRA don't routinely publish the resitter's pass rate for each of the SQE exams in their examination reports. But using their own data, we've still managed to calculate what that pass rate is for resitters in each exam. And before we take a look at the revealing data in relation to SQE2, let's put everything into context by giving you the SQE2 pass rate data from the January 2025 exams, at least the headline figures. So let's have a look at the headline data from the SQE2 January 2025 assessment. First of all, the pass rate for all sitters. This was 75%, so a pretty good pass rate there, much better than SQE1 for reasons we've mentioned in previous videos. And 75% for all sitters represents somewhere in a mid-figure as to what's been expected in the past, apart from a couple of outliers. So the range has normally been somewhere in the region of 73 to 81% for all sitters for SQE2. Let's compare that to the pass rate for first-time sitters, which will always be slightly higher, of course, and that was 77% in January 2025, which compares to a historical pass rate of between 76% and 83%, apart from those couple of outliers I mentioned. So what we can see is that the SQE2 pass rate for first-time sitters and all sitters has generally been quite consistent. But when we extrapolate the data in relation to the resitters, it's actually quite interesting because the last two sits, the pass rate has gone up significantly. So something quite interesting has happened over the last two SQE2 sits, because until July 2024, the pass rate for SQE2 resitters was always below 40%, almost half the pass rate for first-time sitters. Quite extraordinary, really, when you think about it. Now, compare that, though, to the resitters' pass rate for SQE2 in October 2024. That shot up to 72% and was still pretty high in the next sit in January 2025 at 65%. So what do we think is going on? Well, there are a number of factors, and we're going to take each of these in turn. One of the significant reasons as to why resitters failed in much greater numbers up to October 2023 was that proportionately there were many more what we call QLTS legacy candidates taking SQE2 right up to October 2023, because that was the last opportunity for candidates who'd been through the Qualified Lawyers Transfer Scheme route to qualification in England and Wales to actually qualify as a solicitor. These were internationally qualified lawyers who were given an exemption from SQE1, but that only lasted up to 2023. So you had a huge range of ability of candidates trying to qualify in England and Wales up to October 2023. And what that meant was, amongst the QLTS community, there was quite a large fail rate amongst them in terms of sitting SQE2 and therefore resitting again, increasing the resitters' fail rate as well. Another potential explanation as to why the SQE2 resitters' pass rate has risen recently, we believe, relates to LPC graduates. Firstly, we believe there are fewer LPC graduates overall proportionately now taking the SQE, because the SQE has got much more popular, it's bedded down, and proportionally there are more people going through the whole of the SQE journey, in other words SQE1 and SQE2, because you'll remember that LPC graduates are exempt from SQE1, but the problem is LPC graduates are failing SQE2 in much higher numbers because they haven't had that underlying law preparation by having gone through the whole of the SQE1 syllabus. But by having fewer LPC graduates proportionally in the system probably means that the pass rate for resitters for SQE2 has increased. And also, we shouldn't underestimate the fact that we believe the message is now getting home to LPC graduates that taking SQE2 is not a copy and paste of the LPC skills, which I think a lot of LPC graduates thought and found to their cost when they failed SQE2. We believe that LPC graduates are now much better informed and are now getting much better prepared for their SQE2 assessments, with many taking an SQE2 preparation course from a reputable provider. What other possible explanations could there be for the increased pass rate for SQE2 resitters? Well, first, it could be that the October 24 and January 2025 cohorts were just simply stronger than previous cohorts, and they may be outliers, and obviously we won't know that until we see the results of future SQE2 sits. But there is a possibility that those cohorts were slightly stronger, but I don't think we should overstate the relevance of that, even if it is the case, because I don't think it would account for the significant rise that we've actually seen, but maybe a part of it. Also, I think, and we shouldn't underestimate this either, that the longer any exam regime beds down, the better that providers get at preparing candidates for it. So I think we've seen this in SQE1, where pass rates have started to increase, although not consistently. It may be the case that candidates are being better prepared for SQE2 by providers, and that's accounting for the better pass rates for resitters. And finally, it may be the case that the figures that we see are much more reliable for the SQE2 exam results, and therefore the resitter pass rate is representative of where it actually is, due to the fact that we've got a larger, much more representative sample of candidates going forward who are sitting the SQE2 assessment. Just before we give you our closing comments on this video, if you like this content, please don't hesitate to like and subscribe to the channel. If you do, it means that we can push ourselves up the algorithm so that more people like you can get to see our really useful content. So do please tap that notification bell, because if you do that, you'll find out as soon as our new videos drop. And please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section and let us know what you want us to cover in future episodes.
SQE TV.
So potentially good news if you're resitting an SQE2 assessment. It appears that your prospects of passing may have increased for the reasons we've stated. But let's not count our chickens yet, because of course there may well be reasons as to why the last two sits are complete outliers, and then we return to a much lower resitter's pass rate. I suspect it will be much higher than the 40% maximum that it was over the course of the first 6 or 7 sits of SQE2. But let's wait and see. The final thought I want to leave you with relates to the fact that the SRA and Kaplan don't seem to want to publish the resitters' pass rates for SQE1 and SQE2. I'm not quite sure why, because of course the SRA have said many times that they believe in transparency, but they've left it to us to actually give you that information. So going forward, I would really like to see the resitters' pass rate so that we can see that in the exam reports, so that candidates are making informed decisions before they commit themselves to any future SQE assessment. Until next time, cue the jingle.
If you wanna be solicitors, why don't you